Wow, Danielle, it's so wonderful to see you. I haven't seen you in years and years.
Since I think was 2011.
Could
Yes, that was
be,
the last time
could
I
be
saw you.
a
It's
long
great
time.
seeing you,
I
Tony.
had a girlfriend, and she was very jealous of you. Very, very jealous of you. That was just,
I know, I remember. How is she?
oh,
Well,
she's
we
good.
don't know.
She's a mother down in Florida now, but it's all
Oh,
good.
wow, that's
It's all
great. Good to
good.
hear.
You
Good
know,
to
uh,
hear.
I've been studying Stoicism, and one of the things that I really come to believe, even though I'm really more than I'm moving in the Christianity direction.
Okay.
I'm learning about Stoicism. I mean, it's a pause now,
I
but
don't know much about that, but maybe you can
it's
explain.
wonderful. It's just about being calm and collected and
Oh, okay.
not irritated by the world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm reading the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and he says, "Listen, stop crying about all this and that. If it happened, it was meant to happen, and
Hmm.
it had to happen for the better thing to happen. I could never accept that things happen for a reason before, up until the study of the Meditations by Aurelius, and I
Really?
believe that now. And so, just what we said, well, about the relationship, about my then girlfriend, about what's going on now, it all is good, and it had to happen,
Yeah.
I'm thankful for it all.
Yeah. I truly believe that. I truly, truly believe that.
So,
In
uh,
fact,
yeah,
Dad, well,
I want you to, I want, well, I'll introduce you, and then you introduce yourself.
Okay.
I've known Danielle, I don't know, maybe like 15 years. Wonderful person, a very spiritual person. I think you were rather new agey.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, I used to make fun of new age people all the time, and up until I realized I was one of them.
How
uh,
did you find that
well,
out?
I don't know, like 20 years ago, and or so, more than that. And but it was one of the things you and I always had in common was spirituality.
Yeah.
Definitely a big thing. We used to talk about that. And it was obvious. People who are spiritual just can sense it. You know,
Yeah.
quite frankly, what's going on with me is I found myself quite bluntly recently spiritually dead.
Yeah.
And that was a primary reason for the change in my life. And
Yeah.
the recent and just I just was talking to a I just came back from a Baptist church from a church service. Never in my life would I thought I'd go into a Baptist church, much
Right.
less for the service. It was one of the greatest experiences. This is the way church should be. I learned everything
Yeah.
was completely understood. People were sort of
Yeah.
completely welcoming and friendly. It was just, I learned so much from the pastor, the reverend. He
Yeah.
even had a worksheet for the sermon. That's
Yeah.
I was like, wow, and it was just incredible, man. I'm singing along. I was never thought I'd sing along. I thought that was gay, And I'm
Yeah.
singing along. I actually got tears in my eyes. You know, Hello, this is Tony Petrosa. This is what's going on.
Yeah,
Uh,
it hit your soul. It
yeah,
hit your
okay,
soul.
but I don't want to talk about me right now. I want you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Well,
Just
my name is Danielle Oliva. Um, oh, here we are. I have just baptized. I was just baptized in a Christian church last year,
what
and
what denomination?
it's Christian. ICC, International Christian Community.
Is that
It's
non-denominational?
Christian. Yeah, there's Baptist, there's Christian, there's Catholic, there's Protestant, there's Pentecostal. There's
Wow.
there's seven of them actually.
See, that's speaking to me. ITC, you said?
ICC. Yeah,
International.
International Christian
ICC.
Community
Oh,
or
ICC, not ITC, but
ICC.
ICC.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
very cool.
I went Christian because they believe that you're not baptized until you choose to be baptized.
See, that's what makes sense.
I
I was
know.
baptized as an infant. I like that. But it will makes much more sense to baptize by choice, to accept, right? To
Yes,
be
yes,
willing and conscious and knowledgeable and accepting, as opposed
yes.
to,
But you
a brand new human who's like, hello, what's this world?
Right. Well, this is the reason why my dad didn't baptize my sister and I, because he didn't want to shove religion down our throats to believe a God that he himself didn't believe. he was, he had, he had regulations, reservations rather towards the Catholic religion, because they say your child is sinful before it's baptized. You can't bring your child outside until your child is baptized, which is like the first 3 months. He just didn't get down with that. And
By the way,
it's funny
I'm
thing.
by the way, Danielle, I'm going to light this this Jesus candle
Oh,
just to keep you honest.
amen.
Just to keep you
Amen.
all right, to
Love
keep
you,
us both
Jesus.
honest. To keep us both honest. All right. There you go.
Yes, no, God, love it. I have
So
my
your
Jesus shirt on.
so your father was raised Catholic but didn't want to baptize you because of common sense.
Right. He was a critical thinker. And it's funny because that's exactly what God wanted for me. He didn't want me raised in indoctrination. And my father said specifically, he said, if there is a God, he'll find my children. And he did.
Wonderful.
I had an encounter with an angel when I was 5 years old.
Tell me
And
about
I,
that. Tell us about that.
oh,
You're telling the world now, Danielle.
I know. Well, I was very young. I was 5 years old. It was very strange. I don't know. We had a big house. We lived in a big house on Stillwell Avenue, in Brooklyn. And
Are you
I
still
was
in Staten Island?
I'm in Staten Island now.
Okay,
Yes, I'm
very
still
good.
here for the past since 2008.
By the way,
And so
as of today, my name of my YouTube channel is Rediscovering Christianity. As of today, I'm going to add the tag Brooklyn to distinguish it from
okay,
other ones that have,
okay,
because that's a pretty
that's
common
where we're
title.
from.
I just
No place
researched.
like home, right?
Yeah, well, it's going to just individualize it, as this
Yeah.
as our thing. Okay, so you grew up in Brooklyn.
I grew up in Brooklyn. I was 5 years old, and I'm in the house, and I was always mischievous. I was always alone, going through people's things, and that type of person. And I was standing at the top of the basement stairs, and I was deathly afraid of the basement. My sister loved the basement. I loved the attic, but I was scared of the basement. I wouldn't go alone. And I'm standing at the top of my at the stairs, and I'm so afraid because I want a doll. I want a doll that's down there, and I'm too afraid to get it. And I'm just standing there, and it's so strange because I'm 5 years old, but I'm literally going back and forth with myself. Just run down there, get the doll real quick. But I'm so afraid. And I'm like weighing this out in my mind. Do I want the doll more than am I afraid? Suddenly, everything just went really, really weird, hazy. Like my mind became dizzy. It was strange. And I felt something come up from behind me, and my vision changed. It was almost as if I was seeing static all around, but I could make things out. It was the weirdest feeling. And I saw on my periphery feathers, and I'm lifted up, and I'm now floating down the stairs, and I don't know, I'm just in this weird altered state. I put this behind my head, in the back of my head for years because I never could understand it, but it's not something that I would tell myself or make up because no
Wow.
child would do this. And I'm floating down the stairs, and then my feet hit the ground. It was like my soul was lifted out. And then when I hit the ground, it felt like my soul clicked back in. And now and then I don't see anything. Things go a little normal, but not. It's still like hazy looking. And I'm in front of the basement door, and I'm just sitting there, and I look at the top of the stairs, and I decide, let me go back, let me go up, and I'm walking up the stairs, and I'm sitting there like, just what the hell is this? Like just not sure what was happening. Did I black out? What's going on? All I know is I found myself not walking down the stairs, but floating. So I'm sitting there, and behind me, I feel this presence again, whispering in my ear, saying, do not be afraid. Do never be afraid. Never. It's very important that you're not afraid. We are your family. This is not your family, and this is not your home. And after that, it went away. The presence went away. And I felt like I didn't belong from that day forward, never told anybody. Later on I did, but it turned out like 50 years down the line, it turned out to be that way. Like I'm not involved with my family at all. And yeah, And it was but that was just one incident that I had when I was
That's
a child. That
incredible.
kind of set the tone. That
Now,
set the tone for my life.
is there any? Did anyone corroborate that story in any way? I was like, was your
I was
sister
the only
there?
one there. I mean, I've told people.
By the way,
No one saw anything.
audience, I used to be a life coach, and I life coached Danielle's sister, and she was very grateful. One of my first clients.
My sister, yeah. Yeah,
And
she's a good
I
person.
worked for free, and it was very wonderful working before with her.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but but being estranged from your family, that's an awful thing. But you know what? But you know what I found at 59? I'm 59 now. Life
yeah,
is, a primary. I shared this recently on this channel. That a primary reason why I'm moving back to Christianity is I feel more transgression these days. More people are pissing me off, and
yeah.
I've got to forgive them. I've got to forgive them. I can't afford to be
Yeah.
holding grudges and resentments. That doesn't work
It's
in my
not an
favor.
easy thing
That
to
hurts
do.
me. That hurts me. That doesn't help me. You
It's
know,
not an easy thing to do.
and I have to. And Christianity, a cornerstone of Christianity is of course forgiveness. So so you got to forgive. I'm saying I've got to forgive. We
Absolutely.
must forgive. But listen, everybody knows their own situation.
Yeah.
You may have
You
very
know,
good
it's
reasons.
so important. If you think about it, I had to be estranged because if I wasn't estranged, I wouldn't have found myself alone. It seemed like God wanted to get me alone. He needed to get me alone. You know, the first 50 years of my life was just done. It was just going nowhere fast. It was horrible. A lot of pain, a lot of trauma. Everything had to be turned around. And then, yeah, so the thing with oh, it's meant to be, or it's meant to be that way. Even the hard things are meant to be, even more so
Yeah.
I mean, I had to make a lot of sacrifices. I had to sacrifice people from my life. I had to sacrifice myself. You to let go of that animosity, and it doesn't get you anywhere if you don't forgive. You know, in our Father, forgive us
Forgiveness.
our debtors as
You know
they
what?
forgive us.
Regarding others, there's one thing though we've got to do first and foremost is forgive. We must, because if we don't, we hurt. We're the only ones who hurt. Well, I'll probably hurt. We hurt ourselves far more than anybody else. That's
We
number one.
do. We
Okay,
really do.
it's walking around with emotional damage. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is that as Jesus says, we must love each other. Now that's the harder part. The love. I mean,
Mhm.
forgive. Okay, all right. You're out of my life. I forgive you. You were a jerk. Oh, you know what? You did the best you had to. But love you?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? No, I ain't loving you. That's the thing. But as Jesus says, if we can
Yeah.
do that, if we can, man, if we
He
can love,
asks, Jesus asks of us to do what does not come natural.
no. And I tell you what,
You know,
what's going on with me in this
yeah, what
process,
is it?
and I just recently converted. I just 2 weeks ago, I admitted for the first time in maybe 40, 50 years, 50, half a century, that Jesus is God. Okay. Before I was
Yeah, wow.
ambivalent,
Congratulations.
Jesus is cool. Jesus is the
Is
world's
he a
most
savior?
self, but Jesus is God. It was like, wow. And ever since then, and all proceeding, coming up to that, but especially since I've been through in a lot of discomfort. And I'll tell you why I'm in discomfort, because I'm growing. I'm growing now
Oh
like I
yeah.
haven't done in years and years. And the proof of that is the frequent discomfort I'm in. This discomfort that is immediately followed by delight and joy. So this is
Mm.
wonderful. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I'm acting in a way
Oh, you're
that what's
That's transformation. That
that's
is
what's
true
going on.
transformation.
That's what's going on. A lot of discomfort, but it's all wonderful. It's wonderful. I was like, and I'm changing and so the behavior has changed. It's changing.
Yeah.
I'm doing things I never did before. I'm having internal processes that are just foreign. I'm like, hello,
Really?
is this Tony Petroza? Yeah, it is. This is Tony Petroza where he is right now, and it's just
Yeah.
wonderful.
That's great. That's beautiful.
So
You're
let's
in
talk.
contact with God within you right now.
I just I've long been spiritual, and I know that people have respected me for a certain knowledge about spirituality. I know other people have thought I was a great jerk, probably combination of both.
I didn't think so.
And
I was thought you were very intelligent.
thank you. And the thing is that I found myself that the spirit I was totally lacking in spirituality. And then now that I focused on it very deliberately, that part of me is changing and it's affected my entire life. Entire
Yeah.
life. In
Mhm.
my behavior and everything else.
How
So
about your relationships too?
absolutely.
That was
I'm being nice to you for the first time in years.
no, you always nice to
No,
me.
I was making a joke. I was making a joke. So, so and now I'm nice. I used to be a
I'm
real
starting to think,
ass.
oh, yeah, were you nice? No, yeah. It was
You
a
know, I
joke.
think from, you know, I always say a lot of people say, oh, that guy's a jerk. He's an asshole. Like, listen, everyone's an asshole, but and that may be true,
Yeah,
but
everybody is.
I have no doubt that I've been people called me an asshole, been called me an asshole many times, and you know what? None of that matters. You got to do
No.
what you got to do you because the day you're going in the grave is coming. And this is the truth for every person. And
Yeah.
but for me, it came to a point now that I wasn't even talking the talk. I mean, I could talk a good game, but I wasn't even bothered talking it because I mean, I
Yeah.
would say I would do this and that, and I wouldn't do anything. Why? Because the spiritual part of me was just dead. Now that I've
Mm.
revitalized it, and now I'm walking the walk. I mean,
You're
going
born again, I think.
yeah, well, I
I
mean,
think
yeah, I
you're
mean,
born
look,
again.
it's not just like going to church. I'm going to church. I never went to church. I mean,
Oh, you never went to church.
never with any intention and regularity on my own. And
Okay.
now I'm doing it. I mean, doing all sorts of precedents. But this, I'm revitalized. I'm
Yeah.
reinvigorated. I'm reborn, renewed, and I'm at the beginning of a new journey that is
Yeah.
so wonderful. And this is the journey
It's
I've always
different.
been on. Okay, great. Yeah, it is very different. Now I want to talk. I want to get some more of your background. Now, I mean, okay, so you had an experience when you were 5. As you grew up, you embraced a lot of New Age stuff or some New Age stuff, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Talk about
I,
that.
I was raised without God. God was never even mentioned in my household. It's not that my family was atheist. An atheist is someone who says there is no God. They can argue that point. My parents, they just didn't acknowledge God. I mean, if it doesn't exist, there's nothing to argue about. So, but they were both Catholic because we come from a very strong Italian family and they were Catholic. And even though I decided to get baptized in a Catholic church, I do understand though why it's a good thing to baptize your children as babies because you're making an offering to God. So let's say that child dies at 6 months old. The parents made that declaration for
Excellent
that
point.
child.
Wonderful point. I know,
So
it didn't even occur to me. That's a wonderful point.
and it does say in the Bible. I mean, I think it was Hannah in the Old Testament. Hannah, she couldn't have a baby, and she was like crying and crying, please God, please, complaining, just mad at the world and everything. Her husband says, "What, isn't am I enough, to be your husband?" And she was just so just distraught and crying that she went to the. I don't think it was a church then, but she went to the temple and she's crying and I think it was Eli was the priest at the time and he said, "Woman, why are you drunk?" And she says, "I'm not drunk. I'm just so distraught because I'm crying, I'm begging God." And Eli saw that he's like, "Oh, okay, she's not drunk, she's drunk in spirit." Because sometimes when you're filled with the spirit you look weird, you can look drunk, you look like a lunatic, like you've gone crazy. And he said, it's been done unto you, whatever it is, it's been done unto you. So she got pregnant. But before she did this, she said to God, "I promise, give me a child, and I would dedicate that child to you." And her son was Samuel, one of the best prophets of all time.
That's so
And
funny.
so you dedicate your child in baptism to God.
You know,
So
and
the
one
child is covered even if if they're not.
Right, in case of tragedy.
Because the
You know,
second
it's so
churches are supposed to pick up where the other church lacks.
in a
So
wonderful
they fight amongst
coincidence.
each other, but it's stupid because they all add something to it.
Absolutely, the Christianity is a wonderful umbrella. But
Yeah.
let me. The wonderful coincidence. Before this morning, I wouldn't even known who Eli was. By wonderful coincidence, the sermon today at the Baptist Church, Metropolitan Baptist Church, was by their visiting pastor, Reverend Katie, who read from Samuel's 1 chapter 3, and he broke it down in such a way I have never heard a book of the Bible broke down
That's so funny.
I easily understood it after his sermon on it. Not only did he read it once and elaborate on it, he read it, he would elaborate on it a second time, plus there's a worksheet, plus there's visuals, so I understood everything
Right.
about it. Wow, like, wow, that's the way to learn about the Bible from
It really is.
this.
It's
I got to
hard to
commend it.
understand.
I don't know if this is a Baptist thing or from that church, Metropolitan Baptist, or Reverend Katie. Wow, that's the way. And so I learned about Eli, who's Samuel's father, who God was angry with because he'd become not godly, and
Yeah.
Samuel, he was calling to Samuel. And now I know
Yeah.
about that because it's just this morning. So that's
That's
funny.
so, see how
And,
crazy? You see how that works? You see?
but here's
That's
the
how the
thing,
spirit
though.
works.
Here's the thing. Okay, great. So I got some knowledge of the Bible, which I never really. Okay, which is
I never
not,
read. Yeah, I just started reading because I never read the Bible either.
okay. Okay, to the average person, so what? So what? You know a little about the Bible. So what? This is the so what. There's something in there for me to apply to my own life,
It grows up a little. Okay.
to learn something about life
Yeah.
and to apply to my own life. And I found that I'm not going to share with you now because I don't need to. But that's why
Mhm.
you should read the Bible, and then more. But I'll tell you something. I just told you I just converted spontaneously, very surprisingly, a few weeks ago in a church as I was doing the
Wow.
Stations of the Cross, and I shared this with the Reverend this morning.
What church was this
I
that you were?
returned to the church of my childhood, Our Lady of Guadalupe,
Oh,
and
okay.
a real I made a whole video about this, but real briefly I'll say it. I, my pagan girlfriend Shannon pushed me to go to confession because she knows I'm moving in this Christianity direction, and I
Yeah.
didn't want to. I reluctantly went because I wanted to do other things first. Because I wasn't because what? My primary problem is I had a Jesus dilemma. I didn't believe that Jesus was God. Okay,
Mm.
Jesus, most self-realized man, God. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Supernatural. I don't know. I mean, he's definitely the coolest. But
Yeah.
God, he teaches that we're all God, but he's not God. He's not the son of God. And I don't say he wasn't, but I don't know that he was. Okay, I got to retract that. I don't know. I don't
Right.
know. But
Yeah. It's hard to see how that works
yeah.
because. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
But so, and that was I mentioned that to the priest I went to at the confessional, but I cried a little bit in the confessional, and because I admitted I was such a terrible sinner. All right. I'm a
Yeah.
terrible sinner. All
We
right.
all.
Yeah, we all are. But that to
Yeah.
admit that, see, our
Yeah.
pride is, oh yeah, I'm good. I do this. I'm smart. I do that. No.
Mm.
Okay. Okay. Everyone's a terrible sinner. And what does that mean? Is that whatever you think it means, it just means that you could do better. You should do better. That's what it means.
Yeah.
Summed up, distilled for everybody.
Yeah.
And I admitted that. And I cried when I said that because I felt so
Oh,
regretful, so sorry, and then that was my real penance right there because I hadn't come to a point like that in 40, 50 years. I'm 59 now. And that was incredible. So then the father spoke to me with great words. And then he gave me penance and I prayed for the penance. And then I felt a shift. And then I started doing the spontaneously the Stations of the Cross, which they have in the Catholic Church, the perimeter of the church has different parts of the crucifixion of Jesus, and
right.
they have 3D, like embossed, like recesses on their wall. And I was reading everything on the wall. And then the first one I read it, was moved by it. By the fourth one, I said I should get on my knees. And I said, "Oh, wait,
Oh,
I'm not getting on my knees. That's people don't get on their knees in this walkway. I look like an idiot. Oh, it's like some kind of religious nut."
Yeah.
I said, you know what? That's not important. What does that mean? I'm like, I know I should get on my knees now. I should get on my knees. And I started,
Wow.
and then I proceeded down the different stations. And by station 8, I started crying on my knees. Okay. And then
Wow.
by at station 11, I kept on talking with Jesus, like, what, how can I believe you that you're God? How can I believe it? Uh,
Mm.
and um and then at station 11, everyone was on my knees. It I you know I had asked that question, and I heard an answer, uh, and it was a question that was asked. I heard the question,
In your mind?
and the question is this: how can Jesus help me if I don't admit that he's God? And at that moment, I admitted he was God. At that moment, I admitted he was God. And
Uh,
life is good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not looking,
that's amazing.
I'm just spiritually dead. Other than that, life is good. I'm rather some rough times, but I admitted it. I admitted it in incredible. And here's the second best thing, other than that spontaneous surprise and conversion. 2 seconds later, 3 seconds later, the bells of the church started ringing.
Oh,
It was
that's
like I was in
significant.
a movie. It was
That's
like,
significant.
and then I was just blowing away. I
I
was
see
crying
you're
and crying.
noticing the spiritual synchronicities now, aren't you?
It was wild, and
That's
it's
what
just
goes with it because there's this kind of like unseen spiritual web that when you're thinking and you're going through processes, the world is going to start to reflect and give you answers. Look, God doesn't want us just to believe, He wants to show us that He's real. I mean, listen, you don't just believe anything. I don't believe somebody wants to give me, you know, hey, come here, show me where I should go or whatever, and then I'm kidnapped. You don't just believe people. God knows that. He wants to make himself evident. He wants to show. And the beginning is wondering, is God real? And then is Jesus God? It's like it goes in stages. It's very, very strange
it
how it
is.
works.
Things are revealed a little at a time. Some
Yeah.
things more significant than others, and it's like, and then you're like, okay, why do I gotta be religious? Why do I gotta serve a God or praise a God or accept a God or do a religion? Is the answers to all those questions all come. They all come. They're
Yeah. Yeah.
coming. Because I'm a person that likes to be cool, likes to be I'm spiritual. I'm aloof. I do my own thing. But I tell you what, where that's gotten me? It's gotten me spiritually dead. That's where it got.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where I was at.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so that
Jesus, I'm sorry to interrupt.
no,
Jesus was not a fan of religion. He thought it was demonic because his own people rejected him. The Pharisees and the Sadducees, and he was Jewish. He came to fulfill Moses' law, but he came with a completely radical new concept because you know. And by the way, he gave the law to Moses through the finger on the mount. But if you start reading the Bible, you'll start to see these things.
I
I
read it.
mean, he's not. Religion is really it's demonic in the sense where it starts to have you think that you need to do this or you need to do that. God really wants relationship over religion. He
Right.
wants a personal relationship with you. He wakes you up in the morning. He puts you to sleep at night.
That's what it said.
That's what it is.
This is my experience.
It's a personal relationship. God doesn't want to be at an arm's distance where, okay, we just engage when you read the book or you go to church. He's like, talk to me like a friend. I am your best friend. I want to know everything, and it becomes a metamorphosis. It's like a transformation. You transform from within outwardly. Religion is more like, let's do this as appearance, and then over time, maybe something will change. No, you don't change a tree by pulling off the leaves. You have to change the tree by the roots. You have to change the whole entire seed. You have to plant a new seed. So God really desires relationship over anything. And what I found very interesting, which is, I don't doubt it at all. I know this was my experiences, is that he, to make himself really authentic, is he implements himself in a place where there could be no proof. except he's the proof. Like, as for example, I didn't know God when I grew up. I wasn't baptized. I didn't go to church, you know. So there was no concept of God. I didn't know what an angel was, but here's an angel, and I had no idea what an angel was. So it's like and God and my father said, if there is a God, He will find my children, and He did. He did that. He did exactly that. So how could someone who has no experience of God, angels, nothing, and then have this experience, then have a knowledge of God? Because even though I went into New Age, I went into New Age because I backed away from the religion and went towards other ideas because I didn't like we form ideas about the Catholic Church is very corrupt. A lot of churches are corrupt,
Right,
anytime there's
right.
people.
There's lots of things to criticize, and then you
Yeah,
can use
there
it to
sure is.
reject.
Yeah. And so, but what happens is that New Age is there because it's like all religions are included. Oh, we're all inclusive. And they call enlightenment Christ consciousness, but they don't attribute it to Christ because it's demonic. It really, really is. I mean, if there is a God, you have to understand that he's a good God, but then there's evil. And there is a spiritual world right now where there's a battle over our souls right now, and more people are waking up because we're moving into, I think, a time where people need to decide where they're going to be. Where are you at in your life? Not just in the world or whatever changes will happen in the world, but where are you in the change of your own life? Because we pass on what we know, from generation to generation. I think we're really shifting. And I think I have not seen more people now shifting to God than my whole entire life.
Wow, that's
But
wonderful.
you notice that when you start shifting, then you notice everyone shifting, because
Right,
you're
right.
going
You,
through
you
shift.
you have new things that you can see that you didn't see
Yeah.
before because you have a newer understanding. But
What's the
you,
Baptist church like? Because I don't know what really the difference
I tell you,
is.
I had only thing I knew concept of it, a concept of it from movies and TV. It was nothing like that. I mean, it was very different than the Catholic Church, but there
Okay.
was no contention. There was no argument between the two, just different styles. But I got to tell you, I was so, they were so welcoming. The singing was so participatory. They had like the
Oh,
karaoke. You could read every see it.
well, oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They had that in the Christian church as
yeah,
well. Mhm.
the English was spoken plainly, everything, and not, and everything was completely understood. It was like
Yeah.
this. As I told my girlfriend earlier, all things being equal, this is what I'll go to. Even though I'm really
Yeah.
biased towards the Catholic Church, when I described what they don't even call it a mass there, this Baptist thing, I would go to the Baptist thing. I would be a
Yeah.
member of their congregation because it was so plain and participatory. I like the circumstances, but not if you're
Yeah.
not understanding it, you're not connected. I was singing with the song with the karaoke. I started crying. Okay,
Yeah.
that never happened in Catholic Church. This is the first time
No,
ever.
they don't do that in the Catholic Church. In fact,
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's kind of depressing because
Yes.
everything did. It's like all I hear is that's
Yeah. Right.
all I don't hear. There's no life in it.
I mean,
So
yeah, exactly. I love all the pomp and circumstance and the high, they call it high church. But if I'm not, what am I getting from it though?
yeah,
I mean, at least how many times can you see that? I mean, what I get, what I can understand, what I can connect emotionally, where I can grow and learn and then put forth these things. Wow, I got a whole bunch of that from this Baptist church today, Metropolitan
yeah,
Baptist Church, and,
that's
and,
good.
and next to one, and next it's adjacent to the Utrecht cemetery, which is one of the
Oh,
oldest
I know what
cemeteries.
that is.
Oldest cemeteries like in New York. This is so cool.
Okay,
I always wanted to go into it, never did up until this day.
wow,
I grew up in this neighborhood. I moved back here some years ago, and I
yeah,
finally went to that church and had the most incredible experience.
wow. I'm
Now,
glad for you.
I want to go
Glad.
back to you. Now, okay, now you were into New Age. I know you like into crystals. You would
I was into
visualize
tarot cards. I was
tarot
a
cards.
reader.
Right. How did you get into that just briefly? And then how did you get out of it? And then you can elaborate on
Okay. Oh God. You see, because I had no understanding and no religion and none of that, I kind of custom made and tailored a whole religion according to me. And it had a little bit of everything, just like New Age, incorporates Hindu gods and goddesses, and the Egyptian, the eye of horror. It's really all over the place, and it's really stupid, to be honest with you. And well, what happened was, it really never it was always about God, because what happened was when I was around 22 years old, I was very, very suicidal, very suicidal. Um, I was in a relationship, and my boyfriend at the time, we broke up because I cheated on him. So of course, yeah, it was my fault. Guilt is a killer. Guilt will kill you. But he was the love of my life, according to me. And he left, and I got on the floor, and I was planning to beg God, because even though I didn't have any experience with God, I prayed to him though. I would pray to him. I would talk to him. And I started meditating in my teens. It was very strange. I don't know. I seem to have certain tendencies to do spiritual things without knowing that I knew that. Like knowing something without knowing that you know. And so I got on my knees, and I was going to pray to God, please bring him back, bring my boyfriend back, and all this. But something else happened. I got on my knees and I prayed, and I said, God, I'm sorry. I loved him more than you. And I didn't even love God. I mean, I knew to pray, but I knew that you love God. I knew that God should love me. I didn't know that you love God. And I just thought that was strange. And then I followed it up with, and I'm sorry that I loved him more than you and me. And I never asked for him back. And I said, but I'm dead. My life sucks. This and that. I was all kinds of wrong in my life. Well, I was in a bad place in my life.
Right.
And I said, I had a plan to kill myself. I had a whole plan. I says, I'm done. I'm just dead in my life. I don't want to live anymore. This is what I'm going to do. And I had a plan to go to, I lived on Bay 49th off of Cropsey.
Oh yeah, that's not far from me
Cropsey,
at
the
all.
highway. And this was my big plan, just dumb, just stupid, was to go to the overpass over by
The
Princess
highway.
Bay, right? Not Princess Bay, Perfume Bay. When you go into Coney Island, that overpass. I was gonna go there and jump off onto traffic,
Wait.
oncoming traffic,
Over the Bell Parkway.
over the Belt Parkway. Yeah, because my plan was, I want to make sure that I do it, and I do it right.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
I
So
don't
that
want to
that
kill
that by the
myself
way,
in life.
audience, that overpass goes over the Bell Parkway here in Southwest Brooklyn, connecting to Gravesend Bay. So that would have been perfect. You would have been right adjacent to Gravesend Bay, which was
Right.
aptly named. Okay. So
Yeah.
then what happened?
And so, I mean, jumping off of an overpass onto a highway, so that if I don't kill myself by jumping, then I'll get hit by a car, create traffic. Everybody's miserable. It's just a bad plan. I was also 22. So I said, I'm going to go do it. But I had nerve. I had balls. Like, if I wanted to do something, I would do it. And I did. I got up and I said, if my life is worth living, then you stop it. You stop it. And then I'll give my life to you. That's how it started. And so I got dressed and I went to the corner. As soon as I hit the corner, we're talking, I have to cross Cropsey Avenue to get to the overpass. So I'm one intersection away. As soon as I get to that corner, my sister out of nowhere comes and it's like, hey, Danielle, what are you doing? What are you doing? Get in the car. Let's go smoke a joint, and go by Caesar's Bay and get coffee. And I'm just like, I was so shocked that I was like, okay. And I got in the
And
car.
you were completely intent on killing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was suicidal since my parents were divorced, since I was 9. So
And how long did that last?
my suicidal tendencies? Oh, up
Yes.
until I was 50.
How long?
50.
Wow,
From
long
9
time.
to 50.
Wow,
Oh, I was in the wilderness with the Israelites for 40 years.
wow. I mean, I was in love. I had a romantic relationship with death for a long time, and I've been suicidal. The last time for me was 1995. I had a gun to my head, the muzzle resting on
Oh,
my temple, and I was naked. Well, if you want to imagine that, I was in very good shape back then, not like now.
you're in
And,
good shape.
right, and I said, God, is there anything else before I pull this fucking trigger? And I'm not saying I heard any words, but there was something that had me put that gun down.
Yeah.
And so the point that I'm making is that when suicide, there's a kind of cliche statement: suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. It's absolutely
Yeah.
true. Uh,
But
but
it's also a spiritual suicide because you're spiritually dead.
that's right, absolutely.
You are.
Spiritual suicide. That's what I'm saying. Suicide, unless it's some sort of honor thing, is a
Yeah.
mistake. Is a
Oh,
mistake.
it's
It
really
comes
sure is.
from erroneous information. Mistakes come from erroneous information. You have erroneous information. You're using it as if it's accurate or dependable information. Another second mistake.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
erroneous information. The thing about
Yeah.
your
It is.
boyfriend. The thing about what was I was going through, because life had just become too painful for me, and the thing is that we're gonna die. I already mentioned this
Yeah.
earlier. So listen, you're gonna get your wish, okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay, because no, death is even more natural than birth.
Yeah.
It's coming. The thing
Yeah.
is, here's the trick. Here's the game. Here's the challenge. Make the best of it before it comes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely.
That's it. Maybe you do
Absolutely.
some great things. Maybe not. Strive to do some great things because we're all gonna die in the end. And maybe perhaps, and now I think I'm believing. I think Danielle believes that there's an afterlife, and it might be pretty okay.
Oh no, you're here to do something. If you're alive, you're supposed to be here. And what's very strange was I got in the car that day with my sister, and then something opened up spiritually. I heard in my ear, "Put your seatbelt on," and I refused because I didn't want to because the seatbelt wasn't at the law at the time. This was like 1991, 92. And 2 minutes later, we get into a car accident where my head hits the windshield. And so I'm really just like, okay, God, stop this. And I did say, I'm going to give my life to you. You could use my life however you want if you stop this. So now I'm kind of like keeping this to myself. And I know, like, when I got alone that day later on, I'm like, yeah, okay, but I'm still in pain. I'm still heartbroken. So 2 weeks later, we go through the same thing. God, I'm going to kill myself. Same thing. I'm going to go jump off the overpass. Same thing repeated itself. I go to the corner. Who passes me by? My sister. Again, second time. God stopped it the same exact way.
The
So
same sister,
I only have one sister.
so definitely the same one.
Yes, you met, yeah. So she saved my life. I don't even think she knows because I don't think I dared told anyone at the time. I don't think she knows that, and she didn't even come from like she lives in Bensonhurst. I'm all the way here by the Marlboro Projects, by Coney Island, by Great. I guess you call it Gravesend or Bath Beach at the
Yeah.
time. I don't know, but she lives in on 71st Street and Bay Parkway over there. And I'm all the way here. She has no reason to be in this area at all. And here she is twice. Same thing. So she
In a
saved my life
coincidence,
twice.
I contemplated several times jumping off the Verrazano Bridge, which was near there.
Wait, what?
Several times I contemplated jumping off the Verrazano Bridge,
Oh,
the
yeah.
great bridge, which I loved. And I was like, oh, I love it so much. That's got to be the
Yeah.
kicking off
Well,
place
that's
for
the
my
Belt
death.
Parkway. Yeah. the same highway that connects the Verrazano Bridge for Tony is the same
So,
highway that
so,
connected where I live.
so you were spared, right?
I was scared.
Uh, and how did you get into the New Age stuff?
Give me a second. 1 second. Oh, give
Because
me one.
I always made fun of it, but then I realized that like this, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in New Age that is really stupid, but there's a lot of stuff that actually makes a lot of sense. There's actually
Yeah. I got
persuasive.
into the New Age because I did read a little bit of the Bible here and there. Revelation scared the crap out of me, really scared me. And, I did know little things here and there because once I realized God saved my life, twice, I started to read a little bit of the Bible. But I said, God, if I'm going to serve you, and I always had this prophetic gift, always since I had that experience with the angel, I was able to start to predict. I predicted my brother being born 3 years before he came. So I seemed to like it kind of activated some kind of spiritual prophetic gift that I had. So I was really into prophecy. because I had that ability to have dreams that came true, or just to like have precognitive feelings about things and be right. So I wanted to go in that way. So I said, God, I want to serve you, but let's start with tarot cards, not knowing that it's a demonic device. It like truly, it's a demonic device. And then when I read in the Bible that uh, that divination is sinful and you go to hell for that, I threw my tarot cards in the garbage. And then I heard God say, "No, take them out. I'm going to do something with them." And I'm like, okay. And so I started learning the tarot and I started reading the cards and I was great at it. And I ended up becoming a professional tarot
Wait,
reader.
wait, wait. You threw the cards out, then you said, then you heard God's, what you heard was God's voice.
Yeah, he said,
Basically,
no,
God said,
take
take
them
them out.
out.
And then
Yeah.
you, then you really ran with it.
Yeah, then I ran with it because my whole thing was if I can read these cards, then I will help people through my readings. I will serve God this way because of the prophetic. And so what happened was, yeah, I had to be protected probably by God. He had to. I would never say go and read tarot cards because it is demonic, but for some reason, and I found out later why. When I had my spiritual awakening, which was a couple of years ago, I said, Lord, why would you allow me to read these tarot cards? He's like, you don't need them. Throw them away. They were only flash cards. We don't need them anymore. You have me now. So it was a part of me. I was trying to get my mind into this trying to hear God. And now that I hear him, I don't need to use
Well,
anything.
do you think that that voice that you heard back then was God's or some other voice?
I believe it was his, but I was not able to like have a conversation with him like I can have a conversation with you. I could call you and we could talk on the phone. Like back then, I couldn't just call up God. I could only just imagine and try to think but that's how you that's how you exercise your brain muscle actually
Sure.
is by contemplation. I mean, I was very young. I didn't know much. I didn't have an education to
I
begin
know.
with.
I know that you have like this divination. Like I remember I had that nautical adventure show, and you told me you had a dream that I was a huge success, and the show wound up being a total failure.
Did I really?
Yeah, but I tell you what, in your defense,
That
I'm going to
doesn't
bring
mean
that.
that you won't be a success, though.
Absolutely, absolutely correct. In your defense, I'm going to bring that show back. So you weren't wrong.
Oh, are
Maybe you're
you?
wrong now,
Okay.
but maybe you'll be proven right, and I think you will be. That's the thing that people often get hasty and come to a conclusion way too early.
Oh,
You-
you know what? I had feelings about that girl that you said was jealous of me from
she
the
was
beginning,
she was very jealous of you, very, very.
but I
And,
had a feeling that you was dating her.
and
Back then.
I tell you, so and that's the thing about I once I was an NLP trainer, and I learned some
I know that's right.
hypnotism from a very renowned hypnosis in Manhattan. And she said something really profound. A conclusion is something you come to when you get tired of thinking. So remember, if you're at a conclusion,
That makes sense.
if you're at a conclusion, that's just where you are right now. That doesn't mean this is the end. It's just where you
Right.
are calling it the end now, but that doesn't mean it is the
Yeah.
end. And maybe
Yeah.
just take a break, take a breather, call it a chapter, and
Yeah. Things evolve. I mean, you change your mind real
absolutely,
quick. I mean, once
absolutely,
you get more
absolutely.
information and experience, you're the way you think changes.
Yeah,
I mean, we have the Bible from the beginning to the end. I mean, we already, it's kind of the book is a prophecy.
yeah.
It's
And I
the
tell you,
fulfilled
when I,
book.
I opened up my Bible for the first time in 30 years, well, a couple of weeks ago, and I only interested in really in the New Testament. This morning sermon at the church got me more interested in the Old Testament, and the New Testament is about 1/15 the thickness of the Old Testament in the
Yeah,
Bible. And
yeah,
but
yeah.
whatever. But it's just everything things it's a total evolution. That's where
It is.
everything is a process. There are all
It
sorts
is.
of processes, but my life, your life is a process from
It
the
is.
and not just from the infancy, but from your conception, right?
Yeah.
Your conception 9 months before your birth, and then and now here it is in our where we are in our lives, and then you're gonna die. Then the process will continue.
Yeah.
There'll be something
Yeah.
else. There's going to be a
Yeah.
continuance. So don't get caught. The point is, don't get caught up on shit, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because it's all
Yeah.
process.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. And like I remember I've read hundreds of books. I've seen your library. You've read
You know,
hundreds of books.
Danielle, I always regarded you as a very strange and kooky person, and very
I
intelligent,
am.
and very intelligent.
Thank you. Thank you. You
And
too.
listen, I'm strange and kooky too. You're even stranger
You
and
are.
kooky than me, but but I'm
But
strange and kooky.
you're a reader. We both read. I mean, I've read. Yeah. I mean, but you know what? I'll tell you, the Bible has to be the most fascinating and best book I've ever read because it's 66 books in the Bible. So and it's so difficult to read, but I like difficult. I mean, I read Dianetics just because it was difficult. I didn't understand anything, but I had to read it because it was difficult. It was
Well,
difficult to read.
I've read that too, and that was well, actually one of my fascinations for many years now is cults. I'm fascinated by cults. One of the reasons,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an amateur theologian. I mean, because I've always been fascinated my whole
I
life.
know you have a lot of L. Ron Hubbard books.
Well, yeah, and L. Ron Hubbard was a genius, but he was, of course,
He was, but
he was a
then it went.
megalomaniac, and he created a cult, But I tell you, one of the things why he was so smart was proven in when he wrote the Dianetics. He offered any word that was other than plain language. He had the definition of it at the bottom of the page, which is such a genius thing to do. When people don't know a word, then they get then they become less interested. But
Yeah, that's
he kept
true.
them
That's
interested
true.
because he let them know what it meant. See, L. Ron
Right,
Hubbard, and
right.
so Scientology is, Hubbard was great.
Yeah,
Scientology, I have great
it
respect
really.
for Hubbard, though megalomaniac.
You know what? He had good ideas, though. I mean, the whole idea of the auditing, going that really is true.
Yeah,
That really
but
is
it's
true
very similar
about
to
getting rid of like
Catholic
the
confession,
regressive. Yeah, to
right?
get rid of the toxic ideas that we have, you
Yeah,
really have to pull them out at the root.
but the
You really
problem
do.
was is that the church, Scientology clergy, used it to manipulate its people and emotionally ransom them. Obviously, you got to have
Yeah,
high ethics, like the Catholic priests,
yeah.
and you can't be holding shit against people, holding it over them to do your
No,
bidding.
yeah, they completely went cult-like.
That's where the difference.
But you know what?
Uh,
No cult is going to be successful if it doesn't have something, you know, that really you can sink your teeth in to begin with. You have
well,
to have something that pulls you in,
I'll
and
tell
it
you,
has to be
What
logical.
Scientology has most of all is called a tonal scale, which is about a person's state. Very good
Yeah,
stuff. Very good
it
stuff.
does. It does. But
Yeah,
they took it to the crazy Illuminati Masonic
yeah.
level. Yeah.
But
So
yeah, but of course, Scientology is a dangerous cult, but it's been on the wane for 20, 25 years.
yeah.
So you went to crystals too, weren't you?
No, I wasn't into witchcraft. I wasn't into any of that. I was into prophecy. I was strictly prophecy. I wanted
Prophecy.
to be able
Yeah,
to
yeah,
read.
yeah. You were
And
like,
I read cards, and I
uh,
became very good. The whole thing is I had the gift. The cards really were just a practice
yeah,
for
people
me
would come to
to
you to like
exercise.
people
No,
would come
there's a whole science to it actually.
people would
I
come.
had to learn and let me tell you something. I wouldn't have needed the cards if I meditation puts you right into prophecy. When you meditate, you go to another place. You go to a place of no time. And
Yeah,
when you're in that place of no time, you can go to a future, you could go to a past event, you can go to because when I was reading, the only thing I did was I knew how to shut. I used to look at my brain as switches. I could shut switches. Like all my problems, whatever I think, whatever, we're gonna shut that now. We're gonna be completely empty here, and
that's
we're just
great.
gonna sit here. And I would be like, God, the spirit has to tell me something because I have 2 seconds to pull a rabbit out of my ass for this person who wants answers. I really took it seriously. I wasn't
That's
trying
wonderful. That
to.
just goes to show how intelligent you are. There is a protocol called design human engineering that utilizes such visualizations and metaphors that you just described. You see the
Really?
switches in your brain. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was created
Wow.
by Richard Bandler, who started NLP. He started that in the 90s, but it just shows
Really?
that yeah,
Somehow I knew that.
yeah, because you're intelligent. And now you used to be like a fortune teller. Is that correct? Like people will come to you.
They call it a fortune. But I never liked the word tarot reader, and I never liked the word psychic. I called myself a reader for lack of a better term.
It's coming back to me.
I was not the palm in the window. I wasn't a gypsy. I, I didn't want to. I was good at doing it, but I kind of something about it repelled me because I wanted to bring God into people's lives, like to show them certain spiritual knowledge or give them certain spiritual knowledge so that they can be in touch with their spirits and they can find out what I'm telling them. Because the truth of the matter is God talks to all of us. But
Absolutely.
sometimes he'll raise up a prophet or raise up a seer or raise up somebody to tell you what he already told you, but you can't hear, but they do. So I wanted to get people in touch with God, and it just ended up like, what guy am I going to date? Or am I going to get this show? Which are all good things, but it wasn't that. And I guess that's why my intention and my motivation behind it was why I think God was like, okay, I'll let you play the devil's games because I know your intentions and your motivation is good. So I read a lot of people, and I did it for 25, 30 years.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, I knew that about you. Yeah, and
Yeah. And then I got into astrology as well, but it's all demonic. It's
right.
all
So now
demonic.
you're into astrology, tarot reading, psychic, fortune telling. Now, very
Yeah.
serious new agey stuff. The kind of all. By the way, all that is the kind of new age stuff that I would make fun of. But
Right. I
and
make fun of it now too, though. But
now,
it was,
how did you?
it was the only tool that I had because I didn't have I didn't have a working structure on how to find out God in other ways. I was teaching myself basically. I
Okay,
had God was my teacher. I had
great.
no
Now my
teacher.
question is, how did you move out of that and into Christianity?
Well, I started slowly getting out of the tarot reading because I didn't like it over time. I didn't like it. So my clientele dwindled and I wanted it that way. I was tired. I was burnt out. I mean, it was like everywhere I went, I didn't want people to know. I didn't want to do readings anymore. Something about it repelled me. But I could read without it as well. There would be times when it would just happen where I would
Could someone
pick up on something.
could someone use baseball cards and make readings too? That was just a bad joke. Sorry.
You know what? Maybe because
That was a kind of a tongue.
I could
It
read
could
a
be.
regular deck of cards. I mean, the whole thing is that the cards, like God called them. It's so funny. He called them flash cards. He, I think what it was I was training my mind to be able to control what was happening. I wanted to be able to just go and get the information whenever I wanted,
So now, of
and I
course,
that
people
helped.
people believe what we want to believe, depending on how objective we are, and are very astute.
I'm human. I was inaccurate plenty of times, but
And then
I was
now,
accurate a lot of times. A
and an
lot of times.
astute person who's
Yeah.
either a charlatan or deceiver, or maybe someone like you who's gifted or good intentioned. You pay attention to cues. People tell you things, and you can
Actually,
feed,
no,
feed it back to them. You didn't do that.
no, because I did readings over the phone, so I didn't see you. I did readings over the phone. Sometimes I would do readings by text. I would do readings by
You
email.
rely just on the cards and your own abilities and talents.
Right. I I was considered a remote reader where like right now I'm not going to read anybody right now,
Like
but
remote
if
view,
I
is that like
wanted
remote
to,
viewing?
if I want, excuse me,
Is that like remote viewing?
yeah.
Okay, so you can
I mean,
visualize
right
something.
now I no longer call it tarot readings. I do have one girl that I advise right now because I said to God, I says, you know, I can't just drop her. I've been reading her for 14 years. And I can't just drop her. And I said, so God, I need you to come into this reading. I need you to come in and take over and help me help her and try to move this in a different because I'm trying to introduce God into the situation now because before I didn't. when I was just reading her cards. So now that I incorporated God into this, I read her, but I'm not using cards. She's like, lately you've been just so much more accurate.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm getting information. Sometimes God will just say, listen, she wants a reading. You don't even have to call her, just text her and tell her everything will be fine on Tuesday. I didn't even know what he's talking about because she's like, she'll text me, I need to talk to you. Do you have a minute? Can we talk? And I'm feeling like, because the girl, I love her to death, but just like everybody else in the world, we're very insecure about life. We worry all the time. See, God takes away the worries and the fears and the tensions. He takes that away when you can trust him. You don't need to feel that anymore. So
Sure.
I'm like, God, what do I do? Should I call her? What should I tell her? And he's like, it's about Tuesday. Tell her everything will be fine. So I text her and I says, is this about Tuesday? She's like, yes, my mother's going in for surgery. I'm like, she'll be fine. So that's just what happened. She was
Okay. So
contacting me
okay. So
about Tuesday.
you continue to do this, but on a much smaller scale. But you do it in a different way
Only
though.
for her. I do it for her and for like some other person, but I'm not reading cards. And if God doesn't want me to do it, I won't do it.
And
If
okay.
whatever
So
he tells me to do, I won't. I do.
okay. So
Yeah.
how did this reduce, minimize, and how did you get into Christianity?
How did I get into Christianity? Pain. It takes a nice amount of pain and pressure and rejection, abandonment, all these things that go on in your life where also, I had issues before. I had issues with drugs and alcohol before. I had all these things going on in my life where I was angry. I was angry because of my situation with my daughter. As you know, I don't really want to get into it. I was just so angry that I felt life was unfair, and I felt like it was a point of surrender. It's really all about surrendering to God, and that's when things change. It's an
Yes, I
ultimate
recall that
surrender.
I used to see you on Facebook that you were angry about things. Yeah.
But I
And then,
left for a year. I left Facebook
yeah,
for a
yeah,
year
yes, you
for a
disappeared.
reason.
Right.
For a
Oh, no
reason,
doubt,
I left.
no doubt. We
That was the
everything we do is for a
reason.
reason. And so, and then you say, okay, life has become too painful, and you said, where is relief, or where are you, God? Did you ask a question?
It was just I didn't know. I'm like here. I am now. I'm 50. My mother had passed away, and I have no family, which is I don't know. I just it was like it was time now for me to have a better relationship with God, and I got delivered. I asked God to come into my life, fully to come into my life and to heal me. And so yeah, it takes a great deal of forgiveness, and then forgiveness is hard, and then you have to love your enemy, which is even harder. But then you have to bless your enemy, which is even harder than that. But it took some time, and then also I started to learn. I was being guided now to Christianity. Now I'm watching YouTube videos. I'm by myself. I went through an isolation period. God will isolate you. Isolate you. There's times when He will isolate you for a certain amount of time because He's kind of working on you and He's doing things over. So that comes with changes with God as well as you might be isolated. And then when he comes into your life, sometimes you'll lose a job. You start losing things. When you gain him, you'll lose things in the world. And sometimes it'll make you want to quit because you're like, okay, I'm dedicating my life to you, God. But now I'm losing all my friends, I'm losing all my family, I'm losing my job, I'm losing all these things because those are the things that have to be lost in order to change. And so God requires it's an overhaul. And I needed an overhaul in my life. I definitely needed an overhaul in my life. It was either that or I was going to die.
Yeah.
Die of probably a broken heart, probably.
So
I was on my way out.
you needed an overhaul, and you saw Christianity, and you said, "This is the way."
No, I saw God and said, this is the way.
You saw God, and then what?
Christianity came later.
Tell me how it went from God to Christianity.
Well, to God, it was just like, God, I need help. Come into my life. I was watching Christian content on YouTube and I saw this guy. His name is Mike Signorelli in Manhattan. and he was talking about deliverance. He says, so we have to deliver ourselves from, this whole thing. Now we're going into demons, which is another thing that could sound cuckoo, but it makes a lot of sense. He says there are certain things in our lives that will attract demonic forces to start to influence themselves in our lives. And there are certain legal rights that they have: drugs, alcohol, trauma, unforgiveness, bitterness, anger, all these things that can bring dark, negative energies into our lives and start to deteriorate our spirits and deteriorate our bodies. And he's like, we have to be delivered from these things. So I asked Jesus to deliver me. And then that's when it went, that's took it from there.
And
So
then from the,
I was delivered from my own pain,
of course.
uh, which is anything that breaks down your body, we call it a demon. It's demonic. Anything that brings death is demonic. The fall of the garden of Eden, the wages of sin is death. Death is demonic. When we weren't supposed to die, we live in a fallen world. Jesus rose again to let us know this is where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be resurrected. We're not supposed to be dead, but our bodies died with the fall. And so anything that diminishes you or causes death or causes diseases is demonic. It really is. Even bacteria is a force that was not implemented when we were in the garden. But you have to read the Bible. You have to go through this whole thing
And
there.
so,
So I want
and
to be delivered from my pain. So I asked to be delivered. And the guy walked us through these steps of deliverance.
which
He
guy?
said, Mike Signorelli,
Oh, okay, yeah.
he's the pastor.
And is that
And
ICC?
no,
No,
this is online.
this is
I
online.
I was baptized in ICC, but I actually watch Mike Signorelli. I watch different pastors on TV, and I do go to my church. But originally it was him, because I didn't know anything what deliverance was. I didn't know any of these things. I was just learning as I go along. And he says, if you have trauma, if you were molested, if you were abused, if you did drugs, if you have unforgiveness, if you have bitterness, if you've been hurt, if you're angry, if you have all these things, you ask the Lord, you confess, you renounce, and you repent, and you ask Jesus to come into your life and to heal you and to take it away. And so I did that, and I really got deep into that, and then everything started to change. Amen.
It's wonderful.
Amen.
It's wonderful.
It took
Life.
time, though. It takes time for you to go through the process of forgiveness and go through the anger and go through. But now I feel so good. I feel so great. And you may do stupid things, like I still smoke, right? But I'm being changed from the inside out, not the outside in, because you may quit smoking, but you may still want to smoke. You want to get to the point where you don't want this anymore,
Yeah.
and you
Well,
don't do it.
I'm 59 now, and I'm doing spiritually and religiously doing what I would never imagine me doing right now. So it's
I
just
know, and
incredible.
I'm so happy for you. That's
But
so great.
I will say this to you about the smoking. You're only smoking because there's a part of you that still wants to die. Have faith. Give it up
Yeah,
to Jesus, to God, and be
absolutely.
done with that. Be done with that, and
Yeah,
embrace the rest of your life. Because just as I said earlier when we were talking about death and suicide, your death is coming, this mortal death.
exactly.
So you don't have to exacerbate it. You don't have to hasten it.
Yeah,
So just you'll get your wish. So in the meanwhile,
exactly.
love
No, I've been
yourself.
working on that. I've
Forgive
been
you.
working on the smoking because yeah. I mean,
Listen to me,
come on.
Danielle. Listen to me. Forgive yourself.
I
Love
do.
yourself. You don't have to destroy yourself. Just
No,
be done with it.
absolutely not.
Be done with it. Look to God for the answer,
Yes.
and you'll get it.
And I'm so glad that you found God and you had this experience. What a good experience that is, that feeling of surrender where, you know, to know that we have a God, we're not in it alone. We're here for a plan.
And
He has a purpose for our
and
life.
and
It feels good to know that.
here's the thing. It's that we need. We think that we're so great, and in some ways we are, but really
We
it's
are.
cooperation that we're great. But in the great I am, as they say, is the great mistake. Because
Yeah.
that was you and I have found that out. It's the great
Oh yeah,
mistake. And I need a
absolutely.
guidance and a path that is, if not the truth, is truer than the great I am.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
Because the great I
Mhm.
am is mostly the great bullshit.
Yeah. Well, that's
Right?
ego.
Right?
That's that ego that is.
There you go. We got to shrink the ego in order to shrinking the as the ego shrinks, the enlightenment increases. All right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
so that's and it's a Buddhist term or not, but the
yeah.
thing is that
It sure is.
things become revealed,
Mm-hmm.
and an internal process and then external behavior. And the external behavior, like what I'm going through now, like for example, I always strive to get up early, never did, 100 attempts in my life. Now I get up early and I do it because of spirituality has caused it. And
Really?
and I'm going to say one more time to you is look to God for answer about this smoking. You don't have to destroy yourself
Oh,
anymore.
well, I already know. I know it's
Be done
time
with
to
it.
like,
Be done with it.
yeah,
We have to go into the discomfort because that's where the
we
growth is.
do.
That's
And
where
I
the
think
growth
that
is.
that's the whole thing. Who likes discomfort?
No,
But me,
no, no, no. I was a big fraud. I said I did, but I lied. I hated discomfort. But
I
now
hate
I'm
discomfort.
going
That's why
through
it's
it.
hard.
I'm
But I'm
going through it.
absolutely,
I'm going through it because I'm being led by Jesus to
you
go
have
through it.
to. Yeah, you have to. What? Either I quit smoking or what? It becomes discomfort. It's the discomfort is what, dying on a respiratory machine. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh yeah, right.
what
Your ego.
discomfort do I
Yeah.
want? Pick your discomfort, you know.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I've cut down. I've cut down.
Be,
I want to completely be
pray
done
on
with
it.
it.
Pray on it. Talk to God about it. You'll get your answer. Get the ego out
Also,
of the way.
drinking.
That's what I
I
did.
can't drink anymore either. I've had a drink and I started hearing voices. I'm like, wait a minute, this is what is this? There's
Yeah,
certain things you cannot do anymore. Well, listen, Jesus turned water into wine. It's okay to have a glass of wine, but drunkenness is not. Nope, no. Things like that, no. But
I want
yeah,
to.
I completely agree.
I want to say this. We're at the end of our conversation. To this,
Okay.
that you are a most wonderful person. You are truly God's
Thank
daughter.
you so much, and so are
You are
you.
God's daughter. I love you, Danielle. Thank you so
I
much
love you too,
for the
Tony.
blessing of knowing you and your life.
Thank you so much. Can I say a prayer before we leave?
Please.
Okay, let's pray. Father, I want to thank you in the name of Jesus. I want to thank you that you hear me and that you always do, and that you hear your children here gathered together in your name talking. I want to pray for Tony. I thank you for Tony. I thank you that you're blessing his life, and I hope that this blesses everyone that watches and listens to this podcast that we have here. And I just want to ask you to keep Tony safe, to protect him, to move him into his path and give him great prosperity and success, and to just nourish our souls and our spirits. And I just want to thank you with gratitude for your mercy and your grace, Father. Thank you. Amen. In the name of Jesus.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
God bless you, Tony. Thank you.